Chiapi. Iaskoin Emea Chiapi Sto. San Francisco e Matahan na Lahan Bellingham Awati. Inawa King Josephine. Chiapi na Atawa King James Chiapi. And so I'm Susan Powell, a Whitestone woman, and I was saying and greeting you all and saying that I was born in San Francisco and I live in Bellingham, Washington these days. And my mother was Josephine and my father was James. And my mom was from South Dakota. She was Ogallala Lakota. And my dad was from the British Isles, Scotland and England mainly.
And growing up later on in life, you learned your culture and traditions.
Yes. And I can't claim that I know it all, because it's a whole different thing when you live on the res with the people, but I've done my best to learn and also learn from many. When I lived in Canada, I got and spent time with many nations, and it was so wonderful because everybody is unique in how they express their culture, but the principles of living with the land and close with the land and close with the spirit were everywhere, from coast to coast to coast. I was to learn many things from, whether it was the Anishinaabe or the Mi'kmaq or Cree, and there's so many different First Nations in British Columbia, Coast Salish and Kwakwa, and the list goes on. So everywhere I went, I was able to learn from the elders, and very, very generous people everywhere.
So what pleasant or negative feelings, like how did it affect you?
Oh my gosh. Well, my mom was so, surrounded in the white world where we lived. And so I was part of that because I'm a very, I look pretty First Nations. I don't look like a little blonde kid. And so, just walking down the street in San Francisco, I remember the looks that we would get and the comments and being followed around in stores and things like that. And then when my dad had to take me away from living with my mom because she would go out drinking and leave me alone in the apartment while he was at work. And that's not really a very safe thing for a toddler. So he took me away, and that was very traumatic because even if your mom's an alcoholic, she's still your mom, and so that was very traumatic. And then the people that he ended up having me stay with were very, very horrendously abusive. The man had many unresolved issues himself, this young white man, and he used to just beat the living heck out of me. And so that was very traumatizing, and so I'm dealing with feeling abandoned by my mom and then feeling abandoned by my dad, and then he took me to live with his mom all the way in Virginia, and so I felt triply abandoned. And then I'm trying to learn how to live with people that, even though she was my grandmother, she was a stranger to me, and living with these strangers in this strange house and far away from anything and anybody that I knew. So and because I'd been beaten so horribly, that my grandmother said that she couldn't even raise her voice if she was standing behind me because my whole body would shake and tremble.
Oh.
Like for, like a dog that had been beaten and and they just shiver and shake. So I was like that for quite a while. And then when I went to school, I was in this Catholic school, and not being born a Catholic, it's very strange and different. And I just they just saw this little brown-skinned kid. And so if the teacher had their back turned and somebody did something and made a noise, they would always turn around and look at me like I was the troublemaker, which isn't to say that I didn't make trouble, but it wasn't always me. But I was the one that was always in the corner.
So what about their spiritual, physical, emotional well-being? How did that help? Or what do you do to, recover from the trauma or our past experiences?
Yeah, well, for one thing, and just to backtrack a little bit, my dad's half sister and half brother lived in with me a little bit when I was growing up. So my aunt, and she would come home from work, and her neck and shoulders would be tired, and she would ask me if I would massage her, and I was about 10 years old, and I really liked that. Because bodies like other bodies, and because I was doing the massaging, I was in charge, I had control, and instead of being, beaten by somebody else, I got to give. And so that was really great. So then right before I met my medicine teacher, I had gone to Holistic Health College and learned massage and other energy healing techniques. And I also was studying diet and nutrition and herbology and all kinds. So what I know, when you look at a medicine wheel, for instance, and the 4 quadrants, if you take care of the body, that gives you a really good foundation for everything else. And so I was really being diligent with taking care of my physical self. And then at school, we're also learning counseling. I finally got into some therapy myself to help with my issues. And so I was looking at the emotional aspect, and I was learning more intellectually, and all the ceremonies that I was doing was helping me spiritually. So I really was and I continue to be diligent. It's, my teacher always said, it's not the big things you do, but it's the little things that you do every day that make the big difference in the long run. And so I just thought, well, I'll never be perfect, whatever that is, but if I can just keep on keeping on doing my best, to take care of myself. And also, I noticed when people, because my teacher got sick and she was getting ready to pass over, and so all these different holy people and elders and former students and people were coming by to visit. And I noticed that there were a number of elders who were only in their 60s, but they were not healthy. And I had this idea that, geez, if she's taught me all these things and all these other elders are helping me and teaching me, it's my job to stick around as long as I can and be a healthy elder, not somebody who's sick in a bed someplace and can't get out. And things happen to people's bodies. It's not like anybody's bad or wrong because something happened. I mean, my teacher, she passed when she was about 80, but she'd never had a strong, healthy body. It's just how she came in. It wasn't a strong, healthy body. So, but I have a strong, healthy body. And I thought, well, if I can really do a good job, again, not being perfect, but doing better than worser. I'll be around. And I just think, how much fun would it be to be some 97-year-old granny who can still do pretty much everything and have people come and visit and ask me questions, and I can share what my elders taught me. I mean, I think that sounds like a lot of fun.
That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. So it's important to address the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, boy, the idea of talking, because if you studied any of the 12-step programs, they talk about what you learn in a traumatized situation is don't talk, don't trust, and don't feel. And, when I was getting beaten all the time, this man said, if you tell anybody, I will kill you. And when you're just a little tiny person, you believe adults. So I was like, I'm not saying nothing to nobody, no how. And even when I was in a safe place, I didn't trust that I was in a safe enough place to share anything. I mean, I didn't tell anybody about stuff until I was big. So the idea of going and talking to a therapist, it was just awful. And plus, with the Catholic thing and being guilt-ridden and shame-ridden, the idea of sharing anything about what was going on with me was like, yeah, that's not happening. But when I finally did it, it was such a relief, just to have somebody sit and listen to what I had to say and not interrupt me and tell me that I was wrong or that it was a stupid thing to say or that I was mistaken somehow or any of that stuff. And, the first two sessions, the first full 2 hours or hour and a half I had with this therapist, it was just telling what I had to say. And that was the first time in my whole life that I actually talked to somebody fully about what I did. And that by itself was actually quite healing. And so super grateful. That was good for me. They were also a somatic therapist, which means they worked the body. It wasn't just they got me to move and do things in the body to help move the energy that was stuck in my body out of me.
Do you have any words of wisdom or anything else to share for our people?
Oh my gosh. Well, another one of my Mahogany's teachings was that every day you need to find somebody in the world to get them to laugh and get them to laugh from something silly, something really truly funny, not from, like the put down sarcastic laughter, but the fun laughter. And she said, and if you can't find anybody in the world to make laugh, at least make yourself laugh. And I don't know about you, but I do silly things every day, like trip over something or today I forgot my phone when I was going out the door to get to my exercise class, and I just had to laugh. It's like, oh yeah, I remembered all the other things and forgot my phone. And so I could laugh at myself. And I would say that well, there's this great saying, angels can fly because they take themselves lightly. And, there's just been so much heaviness in the world, especially the last couple of years, and everybody's got an idea about what's going on, and what isn't going on, and what should be going on, and what shouldn't be going on. And we've all heard that saying that opinions are like a certain part of our anatomy, and everybody's got one. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just is. It just is. And so if we can just lighten up a little bit and share the teachings of our elders, whatever, we've all learned at least one thing from an elder that we can share in the world. And if we can be happy, just happy because we're alive, not for any good reason, like, oh, I'm happy because I won the lottery, or I'm happy because I have a new grandbaby. But just happy because I have the gift of life. And if we could just be that spark of happy in the world, the Creator, I really believe this, the Creator sent each and every one of us. And with all the gifts that you have, even if you're thinking, because we've all been a little bit depressed over this COVID time, and even if we still have a little bit of that depression or whatnot, there's still this goodness in us. Because I remember one of my cousins had a T-shirt when I was a little kid that said, God don't make junk. The Creator doesn't make junk. And so if we can just look in the mirror and go, well, good enough. Creator made me, and maybe my hair isn't doing what I want it to do today, but I'm good enough because the Creator made me, and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to smile at people, and I'm not going to take things personally, because it's never personal. people say mean things because they got mean stuff inside them that got dumped in there by somebody else. And, you know, and in this world, if you watch TV or anything and you see people pointing their fingers at other people and going, they're bad and they're wrong and they're horrible and they're the worst. And I don't know about you, but that sure doesn't make me happy. There's that thing where I can feel a little bit self-righteous about something and go, yeah, well, serves them right. They did something and now they deserve that. But, really, we all deserve the best, and we deserve kindness, and we deserve care. And each one of us can be the gift from the Creator that gives that kindness and gives that caring and makes that kind of difference in the world, just for no good reason other than we're born and we have the capacity to do it. And I don't think any one of us will be on our deathbed being sad that we were extra kind to somebody today. But that, we'll be looking back on our lives and wishing that we had been kinder, I think, more than anything. So yeah, I'd say do your best to laugh every day and look for ways to, just be that little bit of extra kindness, and don't be a doormat or anything like that. I'm not talking about that, but just, be that gift from the Creator. I think that's what I would like to say about all that.
Our whole goal was to really share individuals' messages. Like we found that when we started working with people, I look back on all the photos and half of the people, elders that we were working with, they're no longer here. So all their teachings and everything. And so we know that there's a difficulty and challenge with, connecting the elders and the youth. So that's the reason that we're doing this is, okay, what kind of information can we leave here for our future generation so that they could bypass all the things that, we went through and stuff.
Well, and I would also say I really appreciate that, Jackson. And I know for me, when I was first starting out back in the 80s with all the deep learning, I felt really concerned for young people that everything seemed like it would take so long to, early psychotherapy, people talked about being in therapy for 30 years. And we need answers and changes and new possibilities now. And so that's one of the things that's really inspired me, because I know how horrible I felt growing up and lost and frustrated. And, and I had role modeling of alcohol and things. And so, I drank when I was a teenager and a young adult. And until one morning I woke up and I literally heard this voice that was surround sound. And it was the most curious thing ever, but it was this elder's voice. And I'd never even met an elder, a male elder by that point. And he just said in the air all around me, he said, "That's enough." And I laughed and I thought, oh my gosh, I got so drunk that I'm hearing things now. And it was like I could feel him shaking his head, and he just said, "No, that's enough." And so I said, okay. And I stopped trying to kill myself with drinking. And I just stopped. And I'm just so grateful that I listened to that voice. And it can be like that for all of us if we listen. There's always, the Spirit is always speaking, and we can be tuned in. And it's just recognizing that, but it is really important to recognize that you are one with the Creator always, even if bad things happen to you. It doesn't mean there's anything bad about you or wrong about you. And it doesn't matter if somebody told you every day that you were bad and wrong. That doesn't make it true. And what is true is that you are a spiritual, wonderful gift from the Creator. Come here to bless this planet. And that if you spend the time being aware of what you enjoy doing, like really that just makes you so happy and your little puppy dog tail just goes whap, 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 then follow that. Follow the energy of goodness and happiness and joyfulness. And even if that feels so far away, just keep going for it and never give up and never give in and never quit. Because, we come from ancient lineages of people who never gave up and never gave in and never quit. And that's how we got here, is to be those people. And you are those people. And we are those people. And, I felt so lost and so alone and so broken and so horrible for a long time. And I still have times that I don't feel at my best. But then I have all these tools at my disposal, smudging and connecting with the earth and reaching out to friends and saying, hey, I'm not feeling so great. Can you ask me some questions? Or maybe let's give each other a shoulder rub or something. And those are the kinds of things that help me, just as a quickie, help me feel better right away. And of course, the big ceremonies, the Inipi and the Chinumpa and the Wiwayang Chiapi, the Sundance, and going to other people's ceremonies when I've been able to be invited to go into a potlatch or the big house in any way. All of those things really fill my heart and fill my soul with all kinds of good medicine and goodness, and help me feel connected to the big picture. And so I would say, to all the young ones coming along, the Wakang, and that's the word for the grandchildren is Wakang is sacred. That's the word for the children, is sacred. Stand sacred. And if we could all treat each other like sacred beings, the sacred beings that we are, that would be, can you imagine a world filled with people that treated each other like sacred beings? That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And we can do that.
Yeah, so I think that was about it for us.
Okay. Great. Well, Pilamayan Yelo, Wopele Tanka. I think, just thank you all so much and have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks.